This is ridiculous. Welcome back to another episode of Business Blaze. It's your boy with the Blaze. I said that in a previous video, and then I said I don't know why I said it, and then I said I should never say it again, and everyone was in the comments like, no, it's cool, say it again. It's your boy with the Blaze. The most expensive private planes. Did I come up with this idea? I don't know if this is going to be good. We will see. Danny writes it, I read it, Sam edits later. It's the holy trinity of the business Blaze. I know nothing about religion, let's carry on. I'm sure many people look back with fondness at their very first car, even if it was a bit crap. I absolutely do. My first car was something called a Toyota Starlet, which I feel is quite unfortunately named, but it was a great little car. It was red, it had a 1.3 litre petrol engine. It was quite nippy, it was quite a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I locked my keys inside it way too many times before I got, a modern car where it's impossible to lock the keys inside. That was a bit of a revolution for me. I had the AA. The car only ever broke down once in the many years that I owned it. My biggest use for the AA was when I locked my keys inside and had to come and open it up. I'd be like, yeah, I'm at the shopping center again, I locked my keys inside. I've only ever owned one car in my life, and I admit that my memories of it aren't particularly special. I think I've owned 3 cars. I've owned 3 cars. This is because I bought it in my late teens when I was still learning to drive, but unfortunately, I never passed my test. Whoa! I know Danny is older than me because he makes all these old references that I don't get, like Commodore 64. One of the biggest things I find surprising is people are in the comments being like, whoa, Simon's younger than me! And it's like, do I look so old? I'm 32. I am gonna be 33. Well, not really soon, but like in a month. Oh, by the time this video goes up, maybe I will be 33. Danny blew a fortune on driving lessons, but my attempts to pass the actual test kept getting progressively worse until I ended up almost killing myself and the terror-stricken driving examiner on the 4th attempt. I think my sister, she passed her driving test on her 5th attempt. She also studied in America for like, I don't know how long it was, but she took a driving test there and she passed it first try, no issues. And it took her 5 tries in the UK. And I was like, yeah, seems like driving tests are a little bit more intense. You also have to learn to drive manual if you want a manual license, and you do. I don't know anyone who has just an automatic license. It's like if you've just got an automatic license, because there's the stick shift license and the one where you just drive automatic. Even though, most cars these days are automatic, if someone has just an automatic license, you'll be like, you're a bit special, aren't you? I gave it up as a bad job and sold my car for half the price I'd bought it for, which was fair enough, considering all the damage that had been inflicted on it under my brief ownership. Oh, Danny! I'm sorry, I know I'm rambling along this one, but my driving test, I was not particularly good at learning to drive. And I will admit that I'm not a particularly good driver. My driving instructor took me for a practice test, and in the UK, there are things called, at least when I took the test, there are major errors and minor errors. And I think you can get like 6 minor errors and then you fail, or any 1 major error. I took my practice driving test, like the mock exam with my driving teacher the day before, and I failed with like 6 majors and like 27 minors. The next day, I went to take, and my driving instructor was like, don't worry, go do the test, it'll be a good practice run, and then we can take some more lessons and we'll go back at it second time around. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that seems fair because I don't think I'm ready. I passed the test with like 4 minors. It was amazing. And I was like, should I really be driving? Because I still can't park. I still can't parallel park. I still can't reverse into a bay. I mean, I can't do any of this stuff. The only reason that I can is because now all the cars are like, that I can half park is because there's so many parking sensors telling me when I'm going to hit someone. But my original point, oh my God, what are we talking about?
No, not me, you. Yes, I am you.
But my original point was that plenty of normal people will probably remember the excitement of getting their first cheap and cheerful car, along with the subsequent pride and satisfaction of gradually upgrading to fancier models as you make progress up the rickety ladder of wealth and good fortune. Unless, of course, life worked out the other way around for you. In which case, I'm sorry for bringing it up. Yeah, that would suck. I feel that even people as rich as Donald Trump still look back with misty-eyed nostalgia at their early vehicles and may even chuckle at the thought of the things that they had to put up with in the olden days. Were cars invented when Trump was young? Isn't he like 90? Except in Trump's case, he's probably thinking about private planes rather than second-hand cars. Probably true. One of the most famous private jets of the 90s and aughties was Trump's Boeing 727, which was given the cheeky nickname of Trump Force One. How original. Rumored to be worth around $100 million, it briefly served in active duty for the short-lived Trump Shuttle airline before the future president adopted it as his own private jet in 1997. $100 million I know is a lot of money, but for a private 727, that doesn't seem extraordinary. Like, doesn't one of those Gulfstream G6s or G7s or G19s or whatever they're on now, I feel those are like 60 to 70 million, right? So having a private commercial-sized jet for 100 million actually sounds like a good deal. You can tell it belongs to Trump because it's got his name written on the side in huge letters. Indeed, it looks like this. Presumably, so it doesn't get mixed up with any other big private planes. During its years in service as a commercial airline, the craft could seat 240 passengers, but after Trump had finished with the custom redesign, it's now believed to comfortably fit around 43 people. That's a lot of people in a private plane. Craft is powered by two mighty Rolls-Royce turbofan engines, while the interior features fancy furnishings with Trump's name, again, plastered over absolutely everything, because of course, if the Trump video has gone out by the time this goes out, I don't know which one will go out first, yeah, you will know all about that, and if it hasn't gone out yet, don't forget to subscribe to Business Blaze because it's probably the next video. There were seatbelts plated in 24-karat gold, a massive cinema system, along with a library of over 1,000 films and 2,500 CDs. Betty still doesn't have any bookshelves, though. But as impressive as all that sounds, that Boeing 727 could still be considered Trump's first cheap and cheerful private plane. At the time of writing, President Trump has access to an even flashier sky ride nowadays. More on that later. Do we need more on that later? It's definitely Air Force One. And in comparison to certain other high-end private aircraft taken to the skies, Trump's first plane now seems a bit like the very first bike you had as a kid, with wonky steering and rusty stabilizers on the back wheel. Can relate. Not to the plane, to the bike. Gulfstream 3. When media mogul Tyler Perry first snapped up his Gulfstream 3, he reportedly only paid around $65 million for it. Only. But after he finished pimping his ride, the craft is estimated to be worth in excess of $125 million. What can you possibly do to a plane that is costing you that much money? How much money is that? It's like $50 million. Holy sh**. But to be honest, I've not really heard of Tyler Perry, me neither. I mean, I've heard the name. I have to say, when he first said it, I thought it was like, is that a musician? Like Tyler Perry? He sounds like, you know, one of the Backstreet Boys or something. But one of the Backstreet Boys can't afford a $125 million plane. Or maybe they can. The Backstreet Boys rich? Probably not that rich. I originally came up with loads of brilliant jokes about the withered lead singer of Aerosmith and that's who I'm confusing it with. Danny too, Steven Tyler. Although I feel like Tyler Perry definitely sounds like a musician. Tyler Perry is perhaps not so well known in the UK, but apparently he's an American actor, comedian, writer, and producer who was listed by Forbes as the highest paid man in entertainment in 2011, pulling in $130 million per year. Good God. Goals. So he can certainly afford a private jet or two, indeed. And to be fair, he probably needed at least one of them for quick hops to his own private island, White Bay Cay in the Bahamas, which he bought himself as a nice little treat for his 40th birthday in 2009. The Gulfstream 3 can only hold 14 passengers, but they do get to fly in the lap of luxury. They bloody well better be. I mean, it's like there's basically $10 million per head, per seat on that plane. I mean, for the cost of the plane, not per trip, obviously. We're not stupid. The aircraft includes formal dining and lounge areas, a huge high-definition LCD TV with cinema-quality audio, and ambient mood lighting, which may or may not come with one of the wings has just fallen off as a setting. Okie dokie. It's very likely that many of Tyler Perry's showbiz buddies have enjoyed a VIP ride in his private jet. It's known for certain that American singer and actress Whitney Houston took a trip on the Gulfstream 3, but sadly, she wouldn't have enjoyed the experience because she was dead. Oh my. What? After Whitney passed away in Beverly Hills in 2012, Tyler Perry offered the use of his jet to fly her family so that the singer's body could be flown back to her home city in Newark, New Jersey, and laid to rest. It's a bit weird, isn't it, Tyler? Why are you doing that? I mean, it's nice, but don't they make... I mean, I don't want to be insensitive, but isn't that... I mean, what cargo planes are for? Although the Gulfstream 3 is Tyler Perry's flashiest private jet, it does seem he's gone through a few others over the years. I feel like that's next level wealth, where you've got more than one private jet. I bet all the people who've got like one private jet are like, finally I got the pinnacle of private jets, the G6. And then like Kanye West rolls up in like a Boeing 747, you're like, progress to be made. I don't know if he has a Boeing 747, but there's an episode of Entourage where he has like a full-size plane. It was cool. In 2019, he sold one of them to American TV and evangelist and sinister, grinning lunatic Kenneth Copeland. Oh god, there are so many people that I don't know. Who is this? I mean, American TV evangelist. I'm glad I don't know him. He sounds like a cock.
We'll exercise judgment right now.
Because we have...
In the name of Jesus!
Oh, thank you, Jesus.
Who once claimed on television that he couldn't take commercial flights because he didn't want to board a long tube with a bunch of demons. Holy shit, dude.
I call you done!
The optics of that are not good, Kenny boy. When he was confronted about this on his driveway by syndicated news show Inside Edition, he went on a bizarre 10-minute mental ramble in which he suggested that God wants Christians to be wealthy.
How much money did you pay for Tyler Perry's Gulfstream jet, for example?
Well, for example, that's really none of your business.
And besides, Tyler Perry offered him the plane so amazingly cheap that Copeland couldn't help but buy it.
Isn't it the business of your donors?
Listen, I paid.
Yeah, that's always my problem, where someone's like, Simon, I've got this plane, I'll sell it to you for like only 60 million. You're like, how can I refuse? I'm sure many of us have experienced that exact same problem. No, we haven't. The Borkan. Alisher Uzmanov is a Russian billionaire, professional fencer, former jailbird, and rumored close friend of Vladimir Putin. So he's kind of the guy that you'd naturally expect to be flying around in a half-decent private jet. Named after his father, Borkan, the plane is also registered on the Isle of Man under the name M. Iabu. The M refers to the Isle of Man registration while the Iabu simply stands for I'm Alisher Borkanovich Usmanov. Couldn't we have been more creative? That's like one of those customized license plates where it's like, it's just a random collection of numbers and it's like, oh yeah, but it's my initials followed by my date of birth, but followed by like my wife's initials or whatever. And it's like, yeah, which is great. So, but why? What's really cool, a friend of mine from school, his dad had a car, it was a Ferrari, and it had the license plate slow car. And I was like, that is fucking golden. I still remember that as being one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. And especially in the UK, because, you know, I feel like in America, I don't know, but you can have more like whatever you want on the license plate. In the UK, playing the license plate game and getting it really neat is hard to do. So this was particularly epic. The original cost of his Airbus A340-300 was around $238 million. However, he's reported to have spent hundreds more millions of dollars on sprucing up the interiors a bit. If Alisher had been in the mood to evoke the mood of the 1980s, he might have felt inclined to put prison bars on the plane's windows, as he spent most of this decade in jail. Oh! The Uzbek-born businessman served 6 years of an 8-year prison sentence for fraud and theft of socialist property. Oh no! But it all gets very political. I was gonna say, before I got into this, I bet he's like upset someone. But this all gets very political. Alisher had forged strong ties with former officers of the KGB in his younger days. Now he claims that he was the victim of a power struggle within the local KGB, who tricked him into seemingly accepting a bribe by making him believe that he was part of a covert operation to ensnare the individual handing over the money. I'm so confused, but he does sound like a criminal, so, you know, okay. He was released 2 years early after expressing sincere repentance, but he was later officially pardoned in 2000 by the Supreme Court of Uzbekistan, which gave a ruling that the evidence had been fabricated and that no crime had been committed. But you're not getting those 6 years back, are you? But he's certainly come a long way since then. The philanthropist and investor who co-owns the biggest internet company in the Russian-speaking world now has a net worth of over $13 billion. That is a lot. And while there are no prison bars on his aircraft, you do get fancy seating areas, plush sleeping quarters, and a lavish dining room complete with luxury leather chairs. Perhaps the most impressive thing about the Borkan is its sheer size. It's the biggest business jet in the Russian Federation and is reportedly even bigger than his good buddy Putin's presidential aircraft. In your face, Putin, that sounds like a really good way to go to jail. It'd be like, yeah, he's going to jail for corruption and we're confiscating his aircraft and now it's Putin's. Oh, however, Putin can maybe console himself with the fact that he's at least got 4 completely identical private jets in his presidential fleet. That's amazing. For security reasons, the decision about which plane the president will board is left until the very last minute, and then all 4 planes take off at once. So Putin may not have the biggest aircraft, but he's surely leaving one hell of a bigger carbon footprint. He flies in a fleet of private jets. I mean, bad, but also next level balling. The Flying Palace. Here's a dilemma for the uber wealthy elite. When you're traveling on your custom A380 Airbus, oh my god, really? This is like the largest commercial jet in the world? It is enormous. When you're traveling on your own custom Airbus A380 private jet with a stack of other privileged guests, how do you visibly maintain the image that you're the #1 dude on this plane? It's quite tricky to do. Who owns this? This is insane. It's gotta be like Middle East. Gotta be the oil money. It's quite tricky to do when you're just lounging around on some sort of comfy seat as every other hanger-on in the room. The Saudi Arabian businessman and royal family member, Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, has come up with a novel solution. He makes sure that he's sitting on a giant fuck-off throne for the duration of the entire flight. No, he doesn't! Having said that, the throne doesn't seem to be quite as impressive as I first imagined. In fact, it just looks like this, like a normal airliner passenger seat with a bit of fancy decoration going on around the back. I would have a word with his designers. Still, the rest of the Saudi prince's flying palace is not to be sniffed at. The craft includes a special spiral staircase connecting 3 floors of the plane. Oh my god, a Turkish bath? You absolute legend. A prayer room with electronic mats that automatically rotate towards Mecca from any direction. I mean, useless for me, but very cool. I'd be in there just like lounging on a mat, just spinning around. I've probably said something really offensive there. A concert hall complete with a grand piano, a full-size boardroom, and even a garage for the Prince's Rolls Royce. This is ridiculous. A bog-standard commercial Airbus A380 would push you back at least $400 million, but all the custom interior work would place the value of this particular plane over $500 million. $500 million! The design company that works on the interiors claim that the plane is not only the most luxurious aircraft in existence, but also reflects the cultural values and status of its owner. God, the plane reflects the cultural values of its owner. What, being rich? Maybe. I would still insist on a better throne, though. Indeed. The Boeing 747-8 VIP. How can we possibly top this, though, Danny? I mean, we've got like a bunch of pages left. But dude, I mean, shit. Boeing 747-8 VIP. The one private plane that would give even the Flying Palace a serious loop-the-loop for its money is the custom Boeing 747 refit job, which was recently snapped up by an anonymous billionaire. The starting price of $367 million doesn't take into account the costs of the ridiculously extravagant custom interior work, which are believed to push the total value of the craft above $600 million. The UK used to broadcast a slightly tacky, long-running TV panel show called Through the Keyhole, hosted by Sir David Frost. Never heard of it. What a surprise. Each episode would show footage of American-British broadcaster and journalist Lloyd Grossman poking his nose around the empty house of a mysterious celebrity. Wait, is this Cribs? Is this like original Cribs with British people? It would then cut back to Sir David Frost in the studio, who would ask a team of panelists who would like to live in a house like this. The panelists then had to try and guess the identity of the mysterious celebrity from the small trail of sneaky clues provided by Lloyd in his video footage. This actually sounds pretty cool. The answer was usually someone like Freddie Starr, Uri Geller, or Jimmy Savile. I don't know who Freddie Starr is. Uri Geller is that guy who pretends that he could bend spoons, and Jimmy Savile is a pedophile. It would be interesting to see if the format could be revised and tweaked slightly for a new YouTube channel hosted by Simon Whistler, in which he invites the audience to solve the curious riddle of who would fly in a private jet like this. Danny, that actually sounds awesome, and I get to go poke around all these fancy private jets. That actually sounds right up my street. I'm not sure we get many clues as the real identity of this particular plane owner, though. All we can say is that the owner is extremely rich. The craft includes several bedrooms, including a master suite, an onboard restaurant, a massive conference room, a stately dining room, 2 separate lounge areas. Intriguingly, the bathroom fixtures and fittings are all gold, including a pure gold bathroom sink, which I'm hoping Sam can throw a picture up of right now.
Alright,
Chop suey, Sam. This seems to be just a little bit over the top for my tastes. I'm really not sure how comfortable I would feel about spitting out toothpaste into a sink of pure gold. I'll tell you how I would feel, Danny. rich. The only other clue that Simon may find on his travels around the interior is a brick from the Berlin Wall and a pair of Baywatch swim shorts. But they may have all been placed there as red herrings. Wait, so we don't actually know who this belongs to? Wow. Also, that doesn't sound as fancy as the Flying Palace, in my opinion. My humble opinion. Air Force One. Finally, we embark upon Air Force One, a craft which is probably the most expensive non-commercial plane in the world, although it's obviously owned by the US military rather than an individual rolling around in their own money. And even as, I'd still be amazed if this costs more than that, like, pimp-ass A380. Although I suppose it's gonna have to have all this military stuff, like, I don't know, flares and that, like, coffin capsule that the president will escape from, if, the movie Air Force One is anything to go on. And even as I write these words, I can already hear the muffled screams from some viewers who are bursting out to point out that Air Force One is not technically the name of the plane. I knew this is just the name of the plane when he's on board, when the president's on board. And yes, in much the same way that Frankenstein is the name of the scientist rather than the creature. Holy shit, I did not know that. And Big Ben is the name of the bell rather than the clock tower in London. I did know that. Air Force is technically the name of the radio call sign rather than the aircraft. It's probably got a really boring name, I think. Having said that, it's now common parlance to use the term for any craft that happens to be carrying the President of the United States. So in theory, a self-assembly plane with wooden propellers could briefly go under the name Air Force One if it took to the skies with the incumbent president on board. The radio call sign, though, that's never gonna happen. It'd be like, no, we really have to protect him. He's the president. The radio call sign was first officially adopted in 1953 when President Eisenhower was traveling in an aircraft by the name of Air Force 8610. The plane entered the same airspace as a commercial plane with a very similar name of Eastern Air Flight 8610, and it was noted that this could cause some confusion as to which of the two planes was carrying the commander-in-chief. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that it would be the plane with Air Force in front of it rather than Eastern Air Flight, but, you know, that's just me. The simple but effective name of Air Force One was chosen as a signal to distinguish the important plane from the other plane, which was only carrying the expendable lives of ordinary folk. John F. Kennedy was the first president to get his hands on a jet aircraft that was specifically built for presidential purposes in 1962, and his wife Jackie played a strong role in the design of the iconic blue exterior that is now still recognizable in today's presidential planes. On a more somber note, it was this very same Boeing 707 that was to carry JFK's body back to Washington after his assassination in Dallas in 1963. On the same flight that an impromptu swearing-in ceremony was held for Vice President Lyndon Johnson as he stood alongside Jackie Kennedy, still wearing her blood-spattered clothing. A decade later, the same jet would again be used to transport Lyndon Johnson's body to Texas after his state funeral in Washington. Blimey. Yeah, I'm like, normally on business plays, I like to think of some jokes. All we have now is, blimey, it's gone a bit dark. Yes, it has. Let's brighten things up with a bit of a look at the specs of the current planes that fly under the name of Air Force One. There are actually two presidential planes in action at the moment, a pair of Boeing 747s which have been in service since the early 1990s and are now fast approaching retirement age. I didn't realize there were two of them. That's cool. They're maybe not quite as fancy as you might think, as they're designed for purpose rather than wild extravagance. During his presidential campaign, Donald Trump once remarked that he would have to swap the current presidential crafts with his own personal jet when he took office because he felt his own private plane was superior. By this time, Trump Force One had upgraded to a Boeing 757. Yeah, this is all great, and it might have plush carpets, but, you know, it probably doesn't have flares. However, he clearly hadn't thought this through very far. It's true that his own plane may have boasted gold-plated seatbelts and a bigger movie library, but the President of the United States is expected to fly in a craft engineered with ultimate security and defense in mind. Yes! Despite the lack of Trump family crests embroidered into every seat, the point was that the presidential aircrafts were far bigger, faster, and more practical. The idea was quietly dropped after Trump became president, and one official was quoted as saying, "No one tells the president he can't do something. Instead, you lay out all the reasons why it's functionally impossible." Yeah, again, just another way of telling him he can't do that. I think it's from a TV show, maybe it's from The West Wing or anything, and it's like, the president's never late. The meeting starts when the president arrives. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. It's Good to be president. The current planes are triple-decker beasts which can hold up to 96 passengers and 26 crew members. Capable of hitting a maximum speed of just under 1,000 kilometers an hour, the jets are 70 meters in length with 4,000 square feet of floor space inside. Designed to withstand meteor strikes? Whoa! Is that really a risk? How many planes have been brought down by meteor strikes? Earthquakes, and even nuclear war, designed to withstand earthquakes. I guess when they're on the ground? Planes are equipped with advanced secure communications equipment, which allows the craft to function as a mobile command center in the event of an attack on the US, with its very own hospital and operating theater in the case the president suddenly starts suffering from a twitchy appendix. Indeed, I believe, and I couldn't find any information about this because I remember reading it ages ago and then I couldn't find it, but there's an operating theater on Air Force One that has like a gimbal or like a steady thing so that surgeons can operate even in like turbulence and stuff. And I thought that was extremely cool. I actually talked about this at length in my podcast, The Simon Whistler Show, which I might link to below. Perhaps most impressively of all, the planes can even be refueled while in flight thanks to a refueling probe on the nose of the aircraft, which can be topped up by a separate fuel plane. Although this is only intended for emergency situations, it means the craft could effectively stay in the air indefinitely if things are looking a bit dodgy on the ground. We can only begin to speculate about how much it has cost over the last 3 decades to keep these planes in operation. The cost of each plane is said to be around $660 million, but that doesn't take into account the huge costs involved in customizing and maintaining an aircraft fit for a president. According to a Freedom of Information Act letter obtained by Judicial Watch, Air Force One costs the American taxpayers over $206,000 for every single hour it flew during Barack Obama's tenure alone. Holy shit. However, the days of these two faithful Boeing 747s are numbered. During his second term in 2015, President Barack Obama ordered a replacement fleet which will consist of 2 Boeing 747-8s. This wouldn't come cheap. The total bill was originally estimated to come in at $3.7 billion, and it was going to take a while to implement. The planes weren't due to be ready until the year 2024. One of the project's biggest critics was Donald Trump. In December 2016, the then president-elect voiced his strong disapproval. He tweeted, "Boeing is building a brand new 747 Air Force One for future presidents, but costs are out of control. More than $4 billion. Cancel order." Curiously enough, he seemed to have changed his tune after he took office and promised to make a tremendous deal with Boeing to get the costs down a bit. He does like the word tremendous. We use the word tremendous a lot in the other video about Trump, which, as I mentioned, will be coming soon. So subscribe, or maybe you've seen it already, depending on how I decided to release these. But now Trump wants the new planes ready by 2021, so he's clearly hoping to get a ride in them himself. Yeah, because it'd be 2024. He's just missed out. He's riding around on a 747. If he does, he should maybe make the most of it. One day he'll have to go back to slumming it like a peasant in his own private jet, but at least that one's got his name all over it. Is this? No, there's another page here. One more page. Oh, it's a bonus fact. How exciting. Long before the days of Air Force One and jet planes, Theodore Roosevelt became the first ever president to fly in an aircraft in 1910, although he was no longer in office at the time, and he largely just seemed to be pissing about, waving to the crowds below who had gathered at a country fair. In 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt became the first serving president to fly in an aircraft, a Douglas Dolphin amphibian, which was also the first aircraft to be obtained specifically for presidential travel. On a similarly historic note, in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan became the first and so far only president to insist that Air Force One cupboards were always heavily stocked with jelly beans. Alright, Ronnie. He apparently became heavily addicted to jelly beans after giving up smoking. Donald Trump is more likely to be seen tucking into a Big Mac or KFC bucket while he's enjoying a ride in the presidential plane, but it does make you wonder where he got them from. Is that really true? That's kind of cool. I like KFC as well. There are apparently top secret rooms in Air Force One which other passengers and guests are strictly barred from entering. That makes total sense. It's the president's plane. I'm sure they have like secret communication rooms and bunkers in a plane and all that stuff. And I bet there's a cool coffin which they can escape from, like in Air Force One, the movie. Although there's been much speculation as to what security secrets may be lurking within those walls, I strongly suspect that they just hide very small branches of KFC or McDonald's. This has been Business Blaze. Thank you for watching. I've been Simon. Subscribe to this channel, smash that like button. This has been a video that mentioned Trump, so it's possible that you're going to need to smash that dislike button at some point. Some people are like that. Below. Thank you for watching. I'll tell you how I would feel, Danny. F***ing rich.